Okay, welcome to Social Media Fridays, episode 44. Each week we meet here to wind down and talk about what happened this week in the world of social media. With us today we have let me see. Masataki Wasa, he is webmaster of wasaweb.net. He's also a Google top contributor in the AdSense and also the Google Plus Help community. And also Meher Bhagat. Meher is a social media dynamo from New Delhi in India. Um, and almost we have Edwin Yong. He should be joining us shortly. Each week we post items of interest, things that are new that pop up in social media. We post them onto the Social Media Fridays community on Google Plus, and once a week we meet here to discuss them. Our first and only question today. It relates to a news article on BBC News, and it was about a study which found that of 5 million negative tweets which were posted about beauty and body image in 2014, 80% of them appeared to come from women. Okay, over to you guys.
Well, that's the headline, as it was. It's the interesting tidbit from the article. The article is slightly more general. It starts with a reference to the TED talk that Monica Lewinsky gave, and where she has argued for a more compassionate internet. And I think it's true to say that she was one of the first, if not the first, global, what would be the right word, phenomenon to be discussed in so widely on the internet in a way that is now familiar to us, but was very new and shall we say unfathomable at the time. And then it moves on to say why do people fall out in online communities, such as on social media platforms? Because it does seem odd, doesn't it, that people who share the same interests, share the same orientation, things like that, people have something in common, gather together, they start to discuss, they start to exchange things, talk about it, but at some point something goes wrong, the group dynamics goes awry, and then it can quickly descend into exchanges of basically acrimony and anger. And there's an academic who suggests that we all have a yearning for a gossipy kind of world, and that by that I mean that you can talk to your neighbor, gossip about the other neighbor, that kind of thing, so that we have that urge, I suppose would be the word. We have that inclination towards gossiping about other people. Now that is no longer contained in conversations on the fence, along the fence lines, but it happens online. And there's another bit essentially that talks about how the social media posts can get heated in the comments section, and it often is the case that it's not it sort of digresses, it diverts from the issue at hand, the things that's been discussed, recriminations are exchanged, and then it goes further and further away from the actual thing that was posted. So there are a few things in the article I think we can discuss about, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I take my hat off to Monica Lewinsky, and I would say that lots of people would give anything to be heard, yet they're quick to try to put her down. I mean, she is a genuine celebrity. Not everybody gets to give a president a head job. Anyway, I suppose having made a fool of myself, the only thing I can do is ask someone to rescue me.
Seriously, you want us to rescue you?
After that.
But don't you think there's a little jealousy in this, in the invective? That there's a little bit of envy in the hatred?
I would have to agree. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very strange affair, wasn't it? I mean, in a sense that I'm the kind of person who thinks that that's a private matter. You know, it's not as if there were great state issues at hand. It's between two people. You know, something that happened between two people. It's done. I'm not particularly interested in that. You know, the whole circus that came out of that. Do you remember, was it Kenneth Starr, the special prosecutor? And that sort of, you know, let's impeach Clinton, that kind of thing. You know, there was I think the affair became completely out of proportion to what it was, and it seemed, you know, looking back, it's really, really a bit weird would be, I'm not sure it would be the right word, but you know, it was a very strange period in terms of politics and media and society, that how people tried to contextualize that, you know, that affair. But the thing is, I mean, Monica Lewinsky is forever going to be associated with that period of her life. I mean, I don't think there's any way for her to escape that.
And that's one of the worst part of being, you know, online, I guess. Once you be there, it's hard for anyone to escape, be it for even a single comment or somebody, or in fact, majority of people, you know, actually going against you. You can't stop people, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I think another recent example might be that of Justine Sacco, the person who tweeted and, you know, very, I think she would admit, herself, I think would admit, was a very stupid thing, and then she went on a flight. A tweet got picked up by many people, and she was fired, essentially, whilst she was flying to South Africa. Don't know if you remember that.
I do remember it, but I can't remember the context. Can you fill me in?
Yeah. Where was it? So she was flying from New York to South Africa to visit her family. And then, you know, she had a Twitter account with relatively few followers, and she had posted sort of irreverent things. I mean, not that the kind of things that many people would post. It's something, I suppose, some would have been quite edgy. Some people have taken offense, but the very problematic tweet was that while she was in Heathrow, because you have to change planes on the way to Cape Town, she tweeted, and I quote, "Going to Africa, Hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding. I'm white.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So she posted that. I mean, she meant it as a joke, not a tasteful one, but no sort of malice in it. It's just one. It's one of those things.
It's very offensive. It's
Oh,
offensive.
it is absolutely offensive. I think the question. I think that's the issue. If you read it straight, it is absolutely offensive. It's not something that anyone should write. And I think that's the issue, because that's if you do not know the person, you don't have the context, you don't know in what kind of way that she's writing that. I don't think. Okay, I don't think she meant offense. That doesn't excuse the text of the tweet, but I don't. I think it would be sort of. I wouldn't really want to go and all condemnatory without knowing her as a person. But it's a if you read it as text, it is absolutely offensive text. So that got picked up. Remember, she doesn't have that many followers on Twitter. Someone essentially picked up on that, retweeted, spread, like uncontrollable fire. And by the time that, and then she went on board. There's no internet access on the plane, so she doesn't know what's happening because she can't access her Twitter account. But over the long flight, which is I think about 12 hours, something like that, from London to Cape Town, it became such a huge issue that the company fired her. And then people were looking people were following this live, and then with hashtags, has Justine landed yet? So it was a drama that was taking place in that the person who got fired didn't know that she was fired, while everyone else in the world, well, at least those who have internet access at the time, knew what was going on, or could have known what was going on. So that, again, I think the degree of the speed and the degree of the dissemination of that tweet, of this incident, was so much quicker than back in the case with Monica Lewinsky, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So we live in a very different world in which things can happen so quickly and can spread so far afield.
Especially negative reviews. I think negative is one that really catches fire. Negative or some statement that really offends someone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. Because many people tweet what they consider jokes, inverted commas. I'm doing the inverted commas. You can't see me on screen, but doing the inverted commas sort of hand thing. Or oh, it's a banter. And jokes and banters are very difficult. That's why not everyone can become professional comedians. I think becoming a professional comedian is one of the most difficult jobs that you can have. Because for a joke or a banter to work, you have to have rapport with the other person or the audience, right? So that they know that you're joking, that they know that you're bantering. But when you start to do that on something like Twitter and publicly, if you're doing it privately, that's fine. But if you're doing it publicly, then people looking from outside, people who are not in that your sort of the author-audience relationship. So while your audience would know that you're joking, other people outside who can still read what you're writing, they don't know that you're joking. Does that make sense? Have I lost you somewhere?
No, it's perfectly all right. I think if this statement was posted on Facebook, for example, with a couple of friends, it would have been all right. It wouldn't have made such a big news for everyone. But it was posted on Twitter, and which doesn't give you private audience, right? So anyone who reads it would find it offensive. Now, if I knew this person in person, I might not have found it offensive. it's but it's understood.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. If you have sort of if you both have the understanding it's a joke, it's fine. But if one party doesn't have the understanding that it's a joke, then you're in big trouble.
Well,
Meher, you're qualified to answer this question. Given that 4 out of 5 of these tweets against that were reported in the main story,
Everything in a very tight space.
Sorry, did I cut you out then, Mr. Taki?
Sorry. Now I find Twitter a bit difficult because you have to cram everything in a very small space.
Right.
I usually like to qualify myself. Now I did that here now. I said I usually. I qualify myself. I usually qualify myself. So it's those kind of things that you want to give a nuanced view about something, or make sure that you're expressing what you want to express in the best possible manner. That's not possible with Twitter in many occasions because you have limitation as to how many characters you can use. So your formulations, what you write, tend to become more absolute. It becomes more
We have 2 Masatakis. Are you still with us, Meher?
yeah, I'm right here.
Yep. Masataki, can you hear us? Yeah, go
yes,
ahead.
sorry. I dropped out.
Yep.
Problems on my side.
Blaming the Chromebook again?
Oh yes. No, I think I had got my point across before I got cut off. I hope I made sense in that.
No, you got cut off actually.
We'd like you to say it all again.
Oh no, can't remember what I was saying.
Twitter with limited words.
Yeah, so
Absolute.
I find it difficult. Yeah, it becomes more absolute. It becomes more pointed. I think that was the right word I was looking for. So that it's easier to, in a sense, offend or hurt people, I think, because you can't add words, you can't qualify certain things, you can't make a more nuanced expression, you can't use any more nuanced expression. And I think that I have always found difficult. It's partly because I tend to write very long sentences at times. It's not a good habit, but at least I'm not going to make a very pointed and sharp statement.
All right, let me digress. Meher, I'm nominating you for this one because you are a woman, and apparently 4 in 5 of these tweets in the original tag to this story, 5 million negative tweets were posted about beauty and body image in 2014. And yet 4 out of 5 appeared to come from women. What's your take on that?
Women are definitely good at bitching, aren't they? Seriously, yeah, the only perspective, I think, you know, the problem is that I think they're bringing their, you know, close conversation online that could mention anyone and that could hurt people around. I mean, when you have, when you're basically talking to a person face to face, and now it's not face to face, it's online, and it could hurt anyone, and for many reasons. Similarly, if I take this example, I think women like to be very negative. They don't have a positive side. They do. It's it's rarely that they bring out, they understand, uh, uh, the other person well. It's just an open view, and women's are generally negative about everything. Something that I don't like, it's gonna go negative. But I think it's important for them to realize at the same time, you're not other person, you're not stepping into someone's shoes, but just writing it. Not you're not actually like Masataki said, you don't know the other person, but you just read the context and go negative about it without giving a thought that that exactly was a personal personal tweet. I mean, that was a very personal tweet, and he publicly posted it. That became all the way negative, and women's generally have a negative side more than a positive side. We take everything uh, to a negative
So
angle.
I see. So it hasn't been my fault. When Angela criticizes me for my slothfulness and laziness, I was blaming myself, but I shouldn't do that. I should blame Angela for her negativity.
See, if you're lazy, that's your problem, not hers. And if she's complaining, that's her problem, not yours. Isn't that? I think the criticism is good, but to what extent it really matters. Um, right? If you can't handle it, basically you're crying for it. Why the hell you criticize people? So I mean, that's you can't handle her criticism, and she likes to criticize you.
I can handle criticism. I'm used to it.
And you're still complaining. You can't handle it.
Oh, well.
You can't handle it. No, well, uh, I think back to the point. Women are, I mean, majority of women are actually negative for many reasons. Uh, Many reasons. If you give us just a scenario, I think we would try picking up the negative points first, then picking up the positive points. We're born this way, and men are born differently. They are more on a positive side and less on negative side. They really don't care what happens next. All they care is they want to do it. Women are like, what happens after it? And men is completely opposite. I think that's a psyche that really that comes in play here.
Do you? This is something that I have absolutely no idea about. Whether the set I'm going to make next, so I'm really excusing myself. But it's been said, and I'm not so sure how much I would trust this. The argument that essentially the differences between genders, that men tend to be more selfish, so they tend to be positive about themselves. So they don't, in a sense, care that much about others, other men.
Yeah.
Whereas women tend to be more conscious about comparing herself to other women in the surrounding. So if in a peer group, men will, a male person, a man would be, wouldn't really be comparing himself to other members of the cohort, whereas a woman would compare herself to the other members of the cohort. I'm not entirely sure whether that's true or not, whether it has been scientifically studied. But that's been said, and that seems to tie in with what you're saying.
90% of the research that you would read is pretty much showing the positive signs, the way you said it. I mean, positive signs in terms of proving it. I mean, most of the studies shows the scenario. And see, as I said, women are more negative than being positive. And then again, if you say, as you said, they're conscious about themselves. So when they compare, they do not look at the positive side. Maybe they're beautiful, but they're not smart sometimes. So they would look at the negative side. Oh, I'm not smart. I'm not smart. But they would look at the fact that I'm beautiful somewhere. So it happens that way, that we use our negative psyche, and men basically uses the positive side of scenarios.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Have we covered this adequately or not?
No, it's just less. It's very less. The numbers are very less. It should be more.
It is an interesting point that you make, because how do they establish the gender of the tweet? Of the people who tweeted that, because that's why it says appeared to have been. So they must have looked at the username and things like that.
Yeah, well, not everybody. Some people deliberately don't use the male female attribution, but they probably would have software, wouldn't they, to guess? Maybe not. I don't know.
It's an interesting aspect, because gender is one of those factors that people look into when they try to slice up the audience, as it were, when they want to target something, whether it's ads or content. That okay, we want to have this age group, this gender, this income group, etc., etc., and gender is an important one. So they must have a sophisticated way of establishing with reasonable confidence the gender of a particular user, perhaps from, I don't know, connections, or perhaps from linguistic analysis, or who knows.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading it somewhere. I'm forgetting the link. It was long ago, almost 2-3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading about fake profiles and understanding why actually and how they actually work. And I remember there was a point that was mentioned. Women fake profiles work much better than men's.
Well, you mean a nice picture of a nice, attractive lady would do better than?
Yeah. That was a statement. Out of 100 accounts, if you have women accounts with the women pictures on it, 80 accounts, or in fact 50-50, just have the 50-50 account of both.
Mm-hmm.
And women's profiles would actually perform much better than men's.
Purely from the picture, or is it the picture plus?
I mean, picture plus generic. I mean, it doesn't matter what do you look when you open a profile? If you know a person, of course you look, because you know a person. What would you be actually looking for? The details, be it LinkedIn or anywhere, you would be looking for more details about the person. But if you don't know a person, what you really look up to as a first impression is the profile picture or the banner, and then the context the kind of person has been posting.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, that happens on all platforms, doesn't it? Because I've certainly come across on Google Plus a lot of fake profiles that use pictures of young, attractive women. They're spammers essentially, and they do that, and they must be doing that because they know it works.
I was reading the article. That was long ago. I don't have the link to it, but I remember these points were made, and now we're talking about negative and all that. So I'm sure the person who's actually done the research on it would have come across various women's fake profile as well. Just because what happens, I mean, if I have normally I am not going to do that, and in fact I don't love doing that, but in my peers and I when I see someone getting negative about a person and they know that person is on Facebook or any other platform, what they do is create a fake profile. In majority of cases they would create a women's profile and then post all crappy negative things about that person.
Yeah, that's a pretty dark thing to do, isn't it?
And
I mean,
people do that. People really do that.
really? Gosh.
Yeah, people do that. And I tell them, what the hell are you seriously doing? Is it? I mean, I've had personal experiences with a few friends who've done that to people. I mean, their bosses, their, female bosses,
Uh-huh.
their colleagues, and it's sad. It's really, really, really sad. I mean, internet does give you power to enrich yourself with numerous things, numerous, connecting people, knowledge. What not does it give you? But then everything that comes on a positive side does come with a negative side as well.
Yeah. And there's that
Right?
Yeah, and there's that asymmetry, isn't there, between the person who sort of either tweets or comments on Facebook or comments on Google Plus, and the hurt that's caused to the target, to the person. Someone might think, okay, someone makes a silly thing, stupid mistake, or writes something that is patently idiotic. And then that person's whole life's ruined, and people jump on. People will be angry. People will really be angry about that person making a very stupid remark, and then jump on, pile on. People may be genuinely offended. People may be genuinely angry about this. People perhaps in a bygone era they would have penned a letter of protest that something so bad has been written, but it's the sort of piling up effect that a person can easily do that, and you do that, you move on. Your life's not changed at all. But for the person who had made that mistake, or for the person who had become, for whatever reason, a target, that's going to last for a long time, and each individual tweet, each individual comment is like a sort of paper cut. It's sort of small cut that cuts you all the way, and you're going to get thousands of those. And that's the scary bit, isn't it? That
it's very scary. It's really very, very scary. We're just saying it. Touch wood, it hasn't happened to us. I hope we haven't done something really bad to someone. And I really hope in my wildest dream that I really don't want to see anything that negative about somebody writing that about me. I mean, I would rather have a person coming talk to me and sort things out instead of writing something very negative. I mean, that's going to take my
yeah.
seriously, that's going to take my sleep away.
No, it's not going to happen to you.
I'm just in general. That's really something very, very, I think, very, very bad to do to anyone.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Though when you think about it, but when you ask people, they probably say, but this person wrote that. I mean, that's really bad. I have to make my views known. And it's on a public platform, so I can do that. So
Public platform, easily accessible, where one has no control. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Generally, no control, public platform, negative reviews actually, run through faster than positive sides. And I'm done.
So, Yeah, it's a really difficult one. I think that we really have to. I mean, it raises all sorts of questions. How do you teach, for example, children to deal with these kind of situations that might arise? You know, how do we make people psychologically resilient so that they can respond, withstand, and perhaps respond appropriately to such situations? It's very difficult because I don't think we have been in a situation where a person who might be leading a normal, well, inverted commas, normal life, not a public figure, not a celebrity, not a politician, not a, in some way be considered as a public personality, public person, they can become a target of sort of cyberbullying or cyber protest, whatever you want to call it, and it's very difficult for that person to take that in and act and react. What would be the right word? Well or appropriately to that situation. And I think that's, it's going to happen. It's going to keep happening. And I wonder what we are going to do as a society to make sure that people aren't, so badly hurt by that kind of experience. Because I think that would be disproportionate. I mean, you can't, there are certain things that people should not, there are certain things that people should be punished for, and perhaps have their social reputation diminished. But that should not be disproportionate. That should not really ruin the person's life forever. But that seems likelier to happen. Of course, the counter-argument that is that we live in a 48-hour culture. If you just ignore the first 48 hours, it will die out. People will find another target, and it's gone. But I think for the person who has been affected, who has been a target, it could be a lifelong thing, and I think that's something that we really need to address and talk about as a society.
Online really is hard to actually control and contain such things on immediate basis. I mean, like for a company, I think for even a company who's paying, I think, millions of dollars just for online reputation, maintaining it, management of social media accounts, and they're actually paying for it. It's harder for them to even control and contain such scenarios. It really becomes difficult for a person to, for an individual person to actually contain that, because you have no idea who's posting and where it is exactly coming from on a very immediate note. I mean, it only comes to your knowledge. For example, if someone writes about me or third person or anyone, I mean, like, how would that actually person would know there's some negative reviews or some negative remark about that person? That only comes in knowledge when you know a person and has seen that review, or suddenly pops up from anywhere. For an individual person, it's very hard. For companies, it's still, controlled and contained with time. But reputation is damaged for whatsoever reason, individual or company or any entity. Online, I think any remark online is not contained in absolute. It remains somewhere, or in someone's blog, someone's profile, someone's messages. It remains there, and you have no idea when it can backfire, even after you've contained it. I think what profiles, I mean, for social networking profiles and sites, what I think they can do is to, have complete sign-up procedure. I mean, like with numbers, emails, everything, and authenticate, and then let them use that platform instead of anyone coming in, signing up with any fake account, and just making an account, social account, and writing reviews about anyone. That's what at maximum these social network sites can do, is to make it compulsory for users to have their mobile numbers and emails at least connected, so that they can be responsible and held for something they do negative about someone.
Okay, have we talked ourselves to a standstill?
I think we have.
Yeah, I think so. I think we had a good discussion out of that article.
Okay, let's call that a wrap on another week. I see we still have viewers. In the Social Media Fridays community on Google+, you'll find a link to this Hangout. Come and join us. We'd love to have a chat with you. Now, we'll be back at the same time next week to do it all again. In the meantime, please remember that you can add topics that you'd like discussed into the Social Media Fridays community.